if Mario disappears, we'll know that this was a bad idea.
Right.
So we had just talked about a lot about victory points and how to win the game. So the next discussion to have for translating the steampunk game that makes sense is the actions that players can take on a normal turn that allows them to function in the game and do the things they need to do. So we'll probably just attack one of each of these one at a time and see how well they'll translate to Cyberpunk, and I'll just copy and paste stuff that we can edit. So in the steampunk game, it was you can take any of the following actions in any order on your turn, and the number of times you could do something was determined by the type of action it was. So some actions would limit you, some wouldn't, just depending on what it was. So the first action that steampunk could make was called trade. If you occupied a civilized location, you could acquire face-up cards from the trade market by paying the cost indicated on the card. Pay the cost cards from your hand into your trade pool. Newly acquired cards go to your discard pile. So in the steampunk game, we had different pools or pools that would happen based on the cards that you would play, because a lot of the cards had multiple uses. So if I said, okay, I'm going to trade and I'm playing this card, and this card to my trade pool, then all those cards are only being used for their trade value and nothing else. So I could have a crew member card in my hand, but they might have trade value because they got money in their pockets, and I play them to my trade pool, but that means I can't use them for their gun later on because I used them for their money. So the card goes to one pool and then it's done. And then at the end of your turn, your cleanup is to move all of your cards in the pools to your discard. So that's essentially the mechanic of how this works. So trade, you can acquire cards from the trade market by paying the cost indicated. So in the Cyberpunk game, it would basically be the same thing. There will be character cards that can have crypto on them, and then you have crypto miners that is just crypto, and then there can be equipment cards that are worth crypto. You just, if you want to take this purchasing action, then you play cards to your crypto pool in order to acquire a new card that goes to your discard pile. In the steampunk game, we said you had to be on a civilized location, which in the cyberpunk game would be you have to be in the city limits to acquire new things. If you're in the wastelands, you can't acquire things. I think there was a discussion at one point of having two trade markets, one that's got apocalyptic stuff that you can only get in the wastelands, and then other stuff that you can only get in the city. And since we eliminated the job decks, that's 3 decks of cards we've eliminated, we could explore the idea of adding wasteland trade market, or we could make that a mini expansion, or we could make that a stretch goal where it's if we want to add this, then we gotta have some more money.
Wasteland, I would assume, would extend to the singularity.
When the singularity is on a location, you don't have to go through it. So you could sit on the location where the singularity is and still take this trade action.
Right, but if you're in the singularity and you want to do a trade action,
I don't think it would work there because there's nothing there to
That's why I was asking if the wasteland would also apply there.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think that you could acquire wasteland resources while in the perisphere. The singularity is just the marker token.
Right.
Perisphere will be when we do the map, Mario, we'll make sort of an off to the side circle or something that's just it just labeled perisphere, and then players will move their markers there if they're in the perisphere, and that way they're physically separated from the rest of the map.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
And that way there isn't any confusion where they're well, but I'm kind of still technically on this, so I could get stuff that shouldn't be a thing.
What about using the equipment? Does that count as a trade action? Because we said that was going to cost.
When you acquire something new, it goes to the discard pile, which means you don't get to assign it immediately.
Right. No, but I mean the mining here.
Oh. That takes crypto to do it. Yeah.
Right. So would that be a trade?
I mean, that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do is come up with a different word than trade, because trade, to me, in my head, trade is for trading for goods. But if it's just them spending crypto, then there can be different ways to spend crypto. And under this heading, we could say you can spend crypto to mine pure, and that is a way to do it. So the action of trade, I think, just needs a new word.
Maybe just spending.
Spending.
I mean, because the only other things are exchange.
It's a shopping episode.
Spend, expenditure, spend, pay, payment, pay out.
I think that's almost there.
Yeah.
I'm getting close, damn it.
You are getting close.
You say pay out, I think Venmo.
I mean, but that's kind of the thing, isn't it? It's virtual money. I'm just saying.
Transfer?
It's closer.
payout. The transfer is good. Yes. Payout, pay off, profit. No. Dividends.
It's very monochrome.
You know what we could do, just simplify this. Why don't we just call the action crypto because it has to do with crypto?
Okay.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm going to copy paste this whole actions thing.
So just crypto, right? Not cryptoing, not
No, just crypto.
crypto coining.
That way, when people do it, they can just say, I'm going to take the crypto action. There are 9 instances of the word trade, and we're just going to replace that with crypto. I like doing that because then it makes my job much easier. Instead of civilized, there are only 2 instances of civil. You know what? That make that city, and hazardous is wasteland. Right? Oh, that's the only instance of it. Okay. So in a city location, you acquire face-up cards from the city crypto market by paying the cost indicated. Cards from your hand into your crypto pool. By a wasteland location, you can acquire. Should we just call it acquire cards from the wasteland market?
Sure, why not?
I mean, should we just put it in there just in case we decide to go that route?
Yeah, put it in parentheses or something, whatever.
I know that's more cards to design, but it could be cool to include stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this.
Like you said, we've eliminated a lot of cards too, so.
Oh, that was 3 decks worth. So that would have been 160 something cards that we eliminated because it was 54 cards per deck or 52 per deck cards. Not having jobs in the game is making things way easier. And then if you occupy the perisphere, acquire pure by paying its. There we go. Okay, so that all makes sense there. And yeah, so you're limited in how much pure you can get by how much crypto you have on hand for your turn. So people have if people want to sit there and build up in their deck so they can obtain a lot of pure, I think we should let them do that. I want to see how that plays out. I don't think crypto should be a limited action. I think that people should be able to use it as much as they have crypto on hand, however they want to use that resource. Because you can also use crypto to buy more crypto miners that then in turn generate more crypto later. Because crypto miners will always be available in the city market. I think in the steampunk game we had relics that were worth trade value, but you could only get those in the hazardous locations, and like that's how we kind of like divided that up. But I think I like this better. You got to be in the city if you want to get more money. But maybe it's this. Maybe the city has crypto miners and particular generic characters full of high-priced pieces of equipment. But if you go out to the wasteland, you get cheap equipment, sawed-off shotguns and stuff.
Right.
Like really cheap equipment, but there's no crypto miners there. And there are some characters there, but you know, they're going to have, you know, they're going to be more specialized towards like tech. And in the city, you'll get characters that are more specialized towards like combat and influence.
Okay.
I think that would make sense for the two. If we decide to go with 2 different markets, it's really easy to split those up between 2 different places and have that discussion. I'll make a quick note about that so we can come back to it. All right, so that takes care of what used to be trade action, now called crypto. The next one is fly. We called it fly in steampunk.
I think we changed it to move, if I remember right.
Did we? Yeah, either move, or we could call it navigate, or it's going to be nav cards. We could call the action navigate, and then you draw nav cards, and that kind of relates the 2, right?
Yeah, okay.
All right, you may move your, not airship, you may move your ship token along on the map to new locations. You may not take this action more than once in a turn. Nav cards. Flying into location requires you to draw a nav card, depending on if that location is in the city or in the wastelands. I see you watching me type. Draw a card from the appropriate deck and follow the text of the card. We had 2 different ways of movement: slow ahead and full steam. Slow ahead was move 1 location from your current position and you don't have to draw a nav card. Full steam was move a number of locations up to your speed from your current position, but you have to draw a nav card for every space that you move through. So do we want to keep that where you can sort of mosey a little bit, or do we want to, you can move up to their speed, but they're always going to draw nav cards? Because nav cards are not just driving, because the nav cards are driving the movement of the underground fighting circuit. They're driving the movement of the singularity. They are potentially flipping territories to 13 spiders or making 13 spiders encounters. Like there's a lot that happens in the navigation deck. And if we want to guarantee that people get some kind of encounter every turn, them moving moving one location at a time shouldn't really exempt them from that, because also with no job cards, there's not going to be a situation where they want to like, oh, I'll just take 2 extra turns to get there so I can get there safely and reserve my resources. They have different resources every turn. They might as well get as much movement out as possible, right? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Just the number of spaces they move is going to determine how many cards they pull.
If you can always move up to your speed, say your ship's speed is 4 or 5, okay? You can move 2 if you only want to move 2.
Okay.
And when we design the map, we'll have to determine like, okay, how many turns at maximum speed would it take to do a full run of pure, getting to the singularity and getting to the 13 Spiders HQ.
Right.
Can that be done in 2 turns, or would it take 3 turns or 4 turns?
Got it.
And that can all be adjusted with just whatever the maximum speed is. And then we can have high-end ship upgrades where people can increase their speed and move more spaces, but they're going to draw more nav cards. They just can get farther in a turn.
Okay.
Yeah, that levels out, I think, in my head. Yeah.
This is also an opportunity for us to talk about what happens when you navigate into certain places. So we already have them where they're drawing a nav card. Should something happen when they fly into a 13 Spiders territory or through it? Or is navigation just moving through, and unless the cards say so, nothing's really going to happen to it?
That's what I was, I think, asking earlier, and I think we determined that it's going to happen. It's not like going through your territory prevents it.
And that was the big question, was if you own territories in your own faction, you'll have to draw nav cards. And I think just based on all that other stuff I went into, it seems like we want them to draw nav cards to keep the game moving. Because if you get a person that concentrates on flipping all the territories, then they have safe passage. You could even get the guy that's like, I'm going to flip every territory. I'm going to move one space, flip a territory, move a space, flip a territory, and create a path so that I never have to draw nav cards for the second half of the game, and I can just do these pure runs like really, really crazy fast because I never have to get stopped. I never get an encounter, that kind of thing. So moving through 13 Spiders space, though, we could make that consequential.
We'll draw 2 nav cards.
That's a possibility. I think anything we add here is adding complexity. If we want to keep it simple, we just say territories don't do anything for navigation.
Okay.
If navigation is because it feels like it's either 100% unaffected or it needs to be 100% affected in some way when it's not your territory.
What if it's only affected half the time? So if you're going through 13 Spiders territory, maybe you're only going at half impulse to draw less attention to yourself.
But what does that mean?
Going slower, less movement, takes twice as much time to do something.
Oh, okay. So 13 Spiders territory tokens are worth 1 additional movement space.
Right.
That's actually a good way to do it, because we could probably graphically represent that on the token somehow, I think.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Like we could have 1 nav on the token, somehow, like it's a 13 Spiders logo, but it says +1 nav.
Yeah.
And then in the rules here, they'll be like +1 nav. What does that mean? And you go to the rules and it's like, it takes 2 navigation movements to get through a 13 Spiders space.
Yeah.
Which will incentivize players in a second way to get rid of those as quickly as possible.
Right.
Yep.
But it'll also incentivize us as players at the beginning of the game to put them in the worst possible places. So that you have to deal with it.
Yeah. Because I just felt like there had to be some recourse in there. Like, yeah, I wanted there to be at least some sort of variable in how fast somebody goes through something.
Well, yeah, because nobody speeds past the police station. That's just
2 minutes. Special abilities are self-explanatory. That's just going to stay. The work action is basically getting eliminated, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's originally what we had was going to be hack. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. We could still say that there is a work action, but then we'll just reference the VP stuff, and we'll call it work as an action, and then each type of work will whether or not you can like do it once or more than once. Like maybe it's work. You can do each of these once in a turn. I don't think anybody's going to be able to do all 6 in one turn, but it at least gives them multiple options to do at least 2 of them. So, okay, well, that gets us through the player actions. So I think from here, we're getting down to how we want to set up the game and some of the other special rules. I think we're pretty close, though. I think we're almost at the point where we could probably play through this. So we'll do some buttoning up on our next talk, and then we'll probably print this out and play it.
Sweet.